Welcome back to the Buttons and Box YouTube channel. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out the jersey giveaway. Details in the description below. Now, as we know, Zach Hyman has now announced that he will miss a minimum of 2 weeks with a sprained MCL injury. That's a real blow to the Leafs offense, and especially if this starts to affect the playoffs. Now, the player that hit him with the knee-on-knee collision was Vancouver Canucks defenseman Alex Edler. He was suspended 2 games for that hit on Sunday night. Leave a comment down below if you guys think that 2 minutes was fair or not, and let us know why. I'm going to ask
Two
these guys the
games.
same questions. I'm going to ask these guys the same questions, but I'm going to give my opinion first. I went off a lot about what Kevin Bieksa said in the panel on Sportsnet. It's kind of an instinctive move, right? It's still a dirty hit though, because I've been in that position too, and my knee comes out when I know someone's gonna get around me, and I have no other choice, right? And it's a split-second decision that's you always regret it because you never want to hit someone knee on knee, like Kevin Bieksa said, because it can go either way. You can get really hurt from it as well. And I've been in that position. I've stuck my knee out, and the second you do that, it's an instinct, and you just regret it. Regardless, still a dirty hit. Jude, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm gonna play a little bit of a I'm gonna be more the protector of Hyman right now. So to just bring up factors that happened, and one of the biggest points that I think that could have changed Hyman's entire career is that is the exact same leg that he tore his ACL and needed surgery in 2019 on. That could have changed his life, not even his career, not even the 2 weeks. That could have changed Hyman's entire life. So that's unbelievable right there to start off with. Me personally, I mean, Edler's a huge guy compared to Hyman, and as you said, Eric, the Kevin Bieksa point, that's a good point. But as we talked about yesterday, Bieksa wasn't the cleanest of players, and he wasn't the nicest of guys on the ice. So he was looking to do stuff like that. As much as it goes both ways, you don't have the momentum. They do, and they're gonna hit you harder than you hit them in that point. And I can't personally speak from experience because I wasn't a forward like you guys, but in that sense, no one really wants to knee someone on like that. But if it is instinctual,
Instinctional.
Instinctual.
instinctual, then you're just a dirty player. Like you
Yeah.
don't, as much as they're like, oh, you're gonna get by me. You have a stick for a reason, like Felly said yesterday, and I personally think 2 games is fine, but you need to look at it on the on Hyman's end too, and that could have been life changing for him. That's just what I personally think. Felly?
Yeah. Well, just to stem off your point there, Jude. To stem off of Eric's point, Eric, you're saying like that. Not to like argue you or anything, but you're saying that you have stuck your leg out, and it's just an instinctual thing, right?
Yeah.
Like no offense or anything, but like your highest level was like single A, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a high level hockey player and you're playing in the NHL, you shouldn't be sticking your leg out. I think that's a low level hockey thing to do.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, it's instinctual. You just like you don't want anyone to get by you, and you're just like, oh shit, oh I just stuck my leg out. Like you don't mean to do it, but it just happens.
right. So I think that's valid, when playing minor hockey, but it shouldn't be happening in the NHL. Like when you see Brad Marchand do it, it's very intentional. And you can tell it's intentional because he's a dirty player. He's a dirty player. Does he mean to? Yeah, but if it was so instinctual, why doesn't it happen every single game, right? Like if it's so instinctual that if a guy's getting around you, why does Connor McDavid not get knee on knee every single game? Because he blows by guys every game. So, that to just touch on that point, I think that's, more of a minor hockey thing to do is, when you're playing a low level hockey, that could be, if you're not the greatest IQ hockey player, that could be something that you do. But if you're in the NHL, I think they're really high level IQ hockey players. So you should never be sticking your leg out. And then, in terms of the suspension, is it enough games? There's a lot of stuff I've been reading. Just so here's one thing. So I was reading comments. TSN posted on Instagram, said Zach Hyman has a sprained MCL and will be out for at least 2 weeks. So lucky for Hyman that it was, because it was the same knee. Lucky for the Leafs that it wasn't more than that, and he didn't sprain his ACL. But people obviously aren't, they don't have credentials or whatever. But this is just reading some people's comments. So obviously, there's people who go way out of like sorts and say, "Oh, this guy should be suspended for 45 games, no exceptions." Like that's a bit much, I think, too. And then this guy says, "I say this as a Canucks fan. Edler needs more than 2 games. That was a reckless thing to do, and that could end a player's career. I don't want to see that when I'm watching hockey." Jude disappeared.
My bad.
So when you look at that one, that really struck me. I took a screenshot of that comment because that really makes sense. This guy's a Canucks fan, and he says that was just reckless and that it can end a player's career. And that's 100% right. If something can end a player's career, then it shouldn't be that small of a suspension. Like going and looking at McDavid elbowing Kotkaniemi in the head, right? That's a dirty play. And McDavid got $5,000 fine, but you have to look at it in terms of, was Kotkaniemi really gonna end his career because of that hit? Probably not, right? That wasn't really that hard of a hit. He kind of came up behind him, shoved him, but people are arguing that, oh, it's because it's Connor McDavid that he didn't get suspended, right? Not really. Maybe a little bit, looking from the league's perspective. But anyways, then I saw this other comment that says suspension should be the length of recovery for the hurt player. So that goes a little bit too far. I think a lot of people think that that suspension should be, if it's an intentional hit and it looks intentional, that it should be for the recovery of the injured player. But when you look at that comment, or that that people say that that really could never work, because let's say you get a young guy, a rookie, let's say Lafreniere knees Thornton, right? If Lafreniere knees Thornton and has to be out for the remainder of NHL and has to stay out until Thornton plays his next NHL game, it's likely that Thornton will never play another NHL game. So that doesn't work. But in terms of how dirty it was, and if it should be 2 games, I don't think it should be 2 games. It should definitely be more, at least 5. Because that's just an intention to injure hit. It wasn't like, as much as you want to say, oh, it was instinctual, or like, he probably just stuck his leg out because he wanted to stop him from getting by. Sorry, did you hear that?
It's okay.
That's just Shiloh leaving my room. That's my dog. And no, like, what was I saying before she left?
Yeah, like I get what you're saying. It wasn't like, or it looked intentional.
So yeah, it was reckless and it was dirty. You don't do that if you're a smart player. Listen, I've been blown by enough times in my hockey career, because I've played against some of the top guys at our age. I've never stuck my leg out and went knee on knee with a guy. It's just not something that you do. It's if it was, then it would happen all the time in the NHL. So 2 games definitely isn't enough, because it is intentional. And Edler, to me now, Edler's just, he's a dirty player, and it's happened with him before. So
yeah, I get what you're saying. It did look intentional, but if you go back, they showed a few yesterday. Giordano got suspended 2 years ago. His was way more dirty. It looked way more intentional, right? This guy stuck his knee out to someone on the boards, and he only got 2 games. So I think the league just looked at that and said, we've given these past guys 2 games, 1 game, whatever. I think there was 3 2-gamers and a 1 gamer, and they're like, even though we may want to, and it may have been a career-ending injury, Hyman is okay, and we haven't done it in the past, so we're going to stick to our gut and give him 2 games. That's just where I think the call came from.
I get that, but you got to realize they handed out the suspension before any information about Hyman came out to the public.
That's correct, yeah.
So I'm saying this about any knee-on-knee collision in the NHL. If it was Hyman doing it to someone else, we would probably be making this podcast too and saying, what do you think about the 2-game suspension? Do you think it should be more? And I'd say the exact same thing. We're not being biased because we're Leaf fans. I'm saying that is a career-ending hit. Hyman's life, right? It's not just his knee. It's literally his life. He has a wife. He has a baby boy now, right? So he's in the last year of his contract, looking to make more money next year. And now he's out for, we didn't know how long, but
Potentially
that
the
easily
playoffs.
could have put him out. And he's looking to get upwards of $5 million on a contract next year. And that easily could have ended it in one play. So the fact that it is something that can end someone's career, it's different. I look at it differently because it's not a hit from behind. Hit from behind can be accidental, someone can turn their back at the last second, right? But any knee on knee to me is intentional when you look at it. And Bieksa, he was a dirty player back in his day. So listening to him in between periods isn't the best thing to do if that's what you're going off of. So
Yeah, I think you interpreted that a little bit wrong though. He said, it was kind of instinctual, but it was still a dirty play. He did say it was a dirty play.
He didn't though. He
No, he
said,
did.
"Oh, he'll probably get what he deserves, a 2-game suspension or whatever." But he didn't say that was dirty or he
I
did
think
say like, "Oh, he shouldn't have done that" or whatever. But
well, I don't
saying
remember
that it's
exactly.
instinctual is kind of stupid if you ask me.
All right, well, agree to
Because you got to
disagree.
be pretty low IQ hockey player to stick out your knee at someone
Yeah.
someone else's knee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he really meant to, but it was a dirty play. Like, I mean, it's not. It did look intentional. It did.
Yeah, like
Right at the
Jude
last second,
said.
he sticks out his knee.
But yeah, like Jude said, whether it was intentional or not, it was a knee on knee contact,
Exactly.
and that deserves. If it was intentional or not, it's intentional because at the end of the day, Hyman's out for 2 weeks or his career's ended.
Yeah.
Right. So doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Felly had a good point before the podcast, and that point was what you have to take into consideration with the Players Association and the NHL's overall. Like Eric, you brought up the point with the Giordano and just going off of consistency and a pattern kind of thing, right? So I wanted to say, Felly, what do you think about like the Players Association kind of outlook on
Well,
it,
yeah.
player
So
safety?
that's the thing, is they're looking after player safety. I'm sure if you ask a player in the NHL that's not Brad Marchand or some of the dirtier players in the league, they would probably say, this deserves this was a dirty play. Any knee on knee is a dirty play, and they don't happen that often.
They don't.
Which is why you have to look at it, because if it was, like I said this already, if it was instinctual, it would happen more often. It doesn't happen that often. So I think if you ask the NHLPA, or a lot of skilled players in the NHL, they would probably say it should be more games because they're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to protect their teammates. This could easily have taken out Hyman for the playoffs, and the Leafs' hope for the cup would have been gone, right? So if you ask someone from the NHLPA, they'd probably say, that should be at least 5 games, maybe more. Stop it from happening. But if you ask the league, they don't want players getting suspended for that long. They don't want to make fan bases upset. They don't want to make TV networks upset. Like they're looking at it from purely a business point of view, like the league. And Gary Bettman doesn't care about player health. He just doesn't. The league doesn't care about player safety really. So when you look at it from that point of view, you want your stars to play. So that's why they fined McDavid $5,000. They didn't suspend him because they want him playing. McKinnon throwing his helmet, right? They didn't suspend him. But those aren't suspendable offenses, really, when you look at it. People are saying McDavid and McKinnon are not getting suspended because they're stars, but really, who are they hurting doing that? I mean, Kotkaniemi was fine. And even if
Yeah,
he
he was
wasn't,
smiling.
he kind of flopped a bit anyways, not to put that into perspective, but he did flop a bit and it wasn't that hard of an elbow. So you got to put it into perspective of can it end someone's career, right? A knee injury, a spinal injury, a head injury that look dangerous, those are suspendable offenses. And if you ask the NHL players, they will probably want longer suspensions, but the league doesn't think so. So
Yeah, and you also brought up the point of like the superstar point, and I mean I don't really know a lot of people that like have Edler in their room, so that's also
yeah.
I have him locked in my closet right now, actually.
okay.
No, you're weird.
But yeah, I think Felly, you might have pissed off the entire Montreal Canadiens fan base. But
About
it's okay.
Kotkaniemi flopping?
Yeah, it's
Good.
okay.
Kotkaniemi did flop.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just leave it at that, I guess. Unless you guys have any further points. No.
Oh, dirty hit by dirty player.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to tell us your opinion and let it be heard in the comments below. And make sure to like, comment, or like and subscribe. And this has been the Buttons Box. We'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.